Hello and welcome to the Boss Life Podcast. You guys, I am fired up to bring on my dear friend and powerhouse lady boss, Ashleigh Clapper. She is going to be talking about all things real estate and specifically how to create six figures in 6 months. Can I tell you, even my coach at Tom Ferry said that 40% of real estate agents have never done a deal. That's
crazy.
So with that being said, we want to get you on the fast track and really realizing your God-sized dreams, up-level your A game. And so without further ado, let's get rolling. Hey guys, all right. Well, let's dive right in. The thing that I love about Ashleigh Clapper, she brings such a just excitement to the business, and just she really helps so many entrepreneurs get on the fast track to success, because a lot of times, most agents, they're really struggling to even get their first deal in 6 months, let alone 6 figures. And so she really specializes in that. So just a little bit of background on her. She's a real estate agent in Northern Florida and Georgia. She helps anywhere from first-time home buyers to investors. And on the side, you guys need to go follow her on TikTok. I want to channel my inner Ashleigh Clapper because she's an amazing line dancer and a good time. We're going to Dallas next week. She's going to put me to shame.
Well, and I think another reason why we wanted to have Ashleigh on the podcast was she comes from a real estate family. Since Steph and I come from a real estate family, it's always nice to kind of see how people get their start when their family's been in real estate. So like, Ashleigh, tell us your story. Tell us how you got started, because I know you've only had your license for a little while, but you've been in real estate for forever. So talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, as you mentioned, I'm a second generation realtor. My mother has been a real estate agent in Maryland and West Virginia. She's a dual agent as well, for just shy of 21 years. So I grew up in the business as a teenager all the way, to today, and having her mentorship, which has been great. But I got into the business when I was actually 17. They hired me as a leasing manager. No idea how old I was, barely looked at my resume, picked up the paper, set it on the desk and just started asking me questions. And with how I presented myself, they're like, "You're hired." Well, then when they looked back on onboarding, they were like, "We hired you. However, you're not of legal age for us to hire you on this position." And I was like, "Oh, so what does that mean? I turn 18 in 3 months." And they said, "Well, until then, we can't hire you." So technically at 18, I started in property management, and I started in the student housing side of the business. So I was managing over 624 beds. I got promoted to then start going to different areas. And that's what brought me to Florida initially. So I took over a property, and what we did is we specialized in taking distressed properties and leasing them back up to 100% after renovating the entire property. So I was kind of the problem solver. I went in and figured out, why is it not leasing? What can we upgrade and spend the least amount of money to get the biggest profit in return? So that kind of got my, I guess you'd say, fancy on the investment side, and how can I make this happen in renovations? And so then from there, I was in and out of property management, then got into vacation rentals. From vacation rentals, I then went back into property management as assistant manager. And then finally, I said, "Hey, this is enough. I want to actually work for myself. I want to be like my mom, and I want to actually help families get into homes and their forever homes." So my mom said no. She said, "This is not a good idea. You're going to be working 100% commission, and you've been in corporate America and working on a salary-based position for years now. I don't think you should do this. It's too stressful." I said, "Nope, I think I'm ready. I want to do it." So she encouraged me to get a commission-based job before jumping into real estate. And I'm so very thankful that she did. I ended up getting into insurance. So I sold life insurance, 401ks, and annuities.
Sure.
And I found a burning passion for it as well, except you get paid good money up front, but when they cancel the policy, it all goes away pretty quickly.
Sure.
So when I started my brokerage and had agents underneath of me and I ended up getting sick and things just kind of went haywire, I said, it's time for me to have something that's a little bit more concrete, but still doing my passion, which was real estate. And my ex-boyfriend actually was the one that really pushed me into it, which is another podcast. And Steph knows that story. We've connected very much on that. And that brought me to getting my license. And I struggled a lot. So that's how I started Six Figures in 6 months, was because I needed to put that burning fire to use. And when I did, that's what ended up happening. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so neat is, as much as you went through hell and back, and if I'm saying too much, you can stop me.
No, you're fine.
I think what's so cool is that when your back is against the wall, the only option you have is, well, you have two options. You can lay down and say, I can't do this. And then you go in a different direction. You don't live out your potential. Or you say, I'm going to figure this thing out and I'm going to step up and I'm going to go all out and burn the boats. And that's exactly what you did. And I think so many people are holding on to all the things behind, like, oh, well, I could go back to this and I could go back to that. But it's like, no, when you burn the boats and this is the only option, I truly believe that's where you win.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what I did. I totally agree. And that's crazy when getting into real estate. And I don't remember the exact number now. I know when I got into it, I think it was 50% of agents actually stayed after the first year. And if you get past that first year, then you're kind of in the golden spot, because the first year is the toughest. The second year you start to see income. And then the third year is okay, now I have a business. And a lot of people just can't sustain that. And a lot of people kind of want to give up. It's not easy. And that's what I want to take away from people getting into the business is, this can be easier than what you're making it, or what some of these brokerages are actually making it. We have a lot of old school brokerages that are wanting their new agents to jump through hoops, and it can be a lot more simple. And I tried to take the road of, I'm going to follow what a brokerage wants me to do. And I ended up thinking outside the box in a lot of ways. And that's what ended up making me successful.
Yeah. Well, let's actually dial into when you decided, hey, I'm going to burn the boats and I'm going to go all in as an agent. What was your game plan to get you that success underneath your belt as quickly as you did?
So when I first got into the business, I was actually working 3 jobs. I could not sustain my living, and kind of diving into my push to the business was, I had to choose, was I going to start my business in Maryland or was I going to stay in Florida? And to be honest, I hated Jacksonville. I did not want to be here. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have my God faith ladies around me. And it was a really big struggle. But then when I left, I was like, wait a second, I miss Jacksonville. And I then surrounded myself with an amazing group of people here, a lot of great ladies, and I fell in love with the city. As much as I learned more about it, again, I just kept falling more in love. So I stayed and I took a position back in property management, but this time I was working with investors. So I wanted to take a position that was going to further my career in real estate, not take away from it. But what ended up happening is it was taking away. It was taking more time than planned. I was also Ubering on the side to make money, just to make ends meet.
Totally. Make it happen.
Yeah, I was, again, going back to what Steph said, I was doing whatever I could to possibly make this happen. And it's not cheap to get into real estate. So as much money as I was trying to bring in, it was going out twofold. And I ended up putting myself in a lot of debt. So I put myself out on social media. And that's what a lot of my referral base is on. And this year alone is where I got 13 of my clients in 2021, just in the first quarter. So my first year was really setting up my social media. I was picked up by another agent that wanted to team up with me as well because of my social media and my biography video, and just explaining who I am as an agent, a person, and what I wanted to do with my business. And so from there, agents just started getting attracted to it, and so did buyers.
That's awesome. Well, and what I think is so cool, just a little backstory between Ashleigh and I drove up to Jacksonville and did a mastermind with Ashleigh. And what was so cool when she did her overview on how to create those 6 figures in 6 months, it was a step-by-step process of step 1, step 2, step 3, because a lot of times people are kind of like, okay, well, I'm in the business, now what? And so what I like is that you break it down piece by piece. And if people come back to you and say, oh, well, real estate isn't working, it's like, no, real estate works. Are you just not working it? That's really, what you have to break down of that simplistic step by step. How do you hold the open houses and get a good return on investment? How do you do social? How do you put yourself out there in the marketplace? And so you give people different options and like a checklist of do these different things, and then you'll get this. It's a formula.
Absolutely. And kind of a sneak peek of that is the 5 tips really is. So when starting out as a new agent, putting yourself out to your sphere. If you don't have a sphere like me, I was new to Jacksonville, even though I lived here for, I think at the time, 2 to 3 years. And I was traveling so much and working so much with my insurance brokerage that I didn't have enough time to really network. And when I was networking, it was so far away in all these different areas that I didn't have a Jacksonville base. So putting myself on social media allowed me to branch out in Jacksonville, but also as a referral agent, which we dive into a lot in my 6 figures in 6 months guide, because it's letting your money work for you. If I have 3 referrals out and I'm not doing really any work after I get them pushed off to the next agent, then that's money that's coming into me while I'm still working here in Jacksonville. The other thing, so referral partners, social media, as you mentioned, open houses. I know a lot of agents struggle with asking for your information. Like, here, can you please sign in? The owner
Totally.
wants to know all of your information so that we know you were here. Well, you don't need my email or my phone number to know who I was here. And, a lot of agents, especially starting out, I was one of them. I was super shy. As outgoing as I am, I was so intimidated to ask for that information. So I have a planned out guide on what to give when doing an open house to ensure that not only do you get their information, but you get a lot of feedback on the property itself, whether it's your listing or you're holding it for another agent. And then on top of that, making sure you're doing money producing activities. So you're marketing and you're networking. How are you emphasizing? Oh my goodness, can't talk today. How are emphasizing on top of that to make sure that the marketing that you're putting out money-wise and time-wise is actually bringing back a revenue versus just spinning your wheels, spending money and wasting time that you're actually not seeing a return on?
Sure. No, I think that's great. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you, Ashleigh, with you having such a background and now getting into real estate and hitting that 6 figures in 6 months, what would you attribute your success in your previous activities? So for the person who's watching this and thinking like, oh, I want to get a job in real estate, what were those background activities in your past that it was like, oh man, that helped me out a lot? What activities were those?
So again, I've been in sales basically my entire life when it comes to career-wise. So having a sales position definitely puts a lot into perspective when dealing with clients. But if you haven't been in sales, having customer service experience, because ultimately we are in customer service. We are here to take care of our clients, not to the point where we're waiting on them hand and foot, but making sure that we are going over and beyond to take care of the transaction and their wants and needs. Now, again, we have that fine line of where do we draw it to where we're putting in too much energy or too much effort into a client that may be taking advantage of you or, again, not a money producing activity. But we can learn a lot from the service industry on how you're handling your clients. My other side of it was insurance. To be honest, I think that was my biggest help. And of course, having my mom. But in insurance, I went through a lot of different team activities, a lot of group meetings where we were learning how to take control without somebody knowing. And a couple of those things are, which I think I use on a daily basis when talking to new clients is form, family, occupation, recreation, and me. And
Yep.
this is the perfect way to establish that connection with a client, whether it be over the phone or in person. And you're getting to know them and probing them and asking questions that you want answered without actually asking them. And then it becomes more of a conversation. It's more fluent and natural. You don't sound like a salesperson, or as we like to say, a cheesy car salesman. I'm
Totally.
sorry. But, it's a little bit more of a flow. So I think that was a huge thing. And then also, really working on my phone presence, and smile and dial is what we used to say. So it's all fun and games, to sit here and dial and cold call, whether it's, leads or it's expired leads on MLS, whatever you're calling. If you are not smiling through the phone with your voice, that's going to make a really big difference. And then also building really good rapport to where you're leaving them to where they want to actually meet you. And I used to say, if I can get somebody to laugh, if I can get somebody to cry, or if I can get somebody to want to be my friend, I'm going to sell them something, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Sure. And you truly do have like that infectious personality that is just so positive, and people just want to be around you. And I think that's half the thing. It truly is. Like, even Ben, you guys, I didn't even introduce Ben Peters. He is my fellow real estate agent and a powerhouse in Minneapolis. And he's been killing it in the game and doing high transactions, leading a team. And that's really what I think sets him apart too. Ben has taught me, and this is something that I'm a very impatient person. Ben knows this.
Me too.
Absolutely. She is not lying. Not lying at all.
Okay. You know what? You don't need to expound on this. But it's the same way. But I think what, Ben, you are so good at, and Ashleigh and I are learning that is so advantageous, is play the long game. Play the long game. And Ben, if you just even want to explain what the long game is on a number of different levels, because I think it's so applicable to the new agent. A lot of times they just want to turn that profit right away. But at the end of the day, you want to build that firm foundation, because it's sometimes that short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what probably sets me apart from typical agents. There's so many agents who are like, oh, I need to get transactions through the door. I need to do as many transactions as possible. And as soon as they close, I think the statistic is the average agent, after they close on a transaction, will not contact that contact ever again. That's the average agent. Now, there's good agents who will put them on a drip email campaign, that type of stuff, which there's nothing wrong with the drip email campaigns. I'm personally not a huge fan of it. But for me, playing the long game. So I've had people that in my first year of real estate, my personal record, I showed a guy 78 homes before he bought one. Now there's some coaches who teach you, hey, try and get them in by 5 houses. Like, by the time you show them 5, try and get them. And that particular guy, I've never gotten a referral from, but all my clients that I'm working with, I'm like, hey, I'm not here to sell you on something that you don't want to get yourself into. My goal is to educate you through this process. And because of that, because of the low pressure nature of that, there's a lot of people who will continue coming back to me again and again. 96% of my business comes from referrals. And so that was going to lead me into my next question for you, Ashleigh. So you mentioned social media. Social media is a big pillar of your business. Where would you say your other pillars are? Like, because a lot of agents do the cold Zillow stuff. A lot of agents will do some social media. So what buckets are you getting your clients from right now?
Yeah, Ben. So before answering that question, I also want to say you're like my spirit animal. We all us three, we are a triangle of the same person. Like, we share so much of the same energy. And I'm the same way. I play the long game. And I think that kind of goes back also to re-answer the question that you just asked, is that my referral game is so strong. And that also comes from insurance. It was always get in a house. It doesn't matter if you sell, you need to focus on getting referrals, and you don't leave without 10 referrals. So I used to play a game with my agents, was whoever can get the most referrals, like dinner's on me or drinks are on me. And then it got to like the point where I was buying like freaking iPads and like how many referrals you could get. And in a house, I had to get 78 referrals. And they ended up selling 32 of them. I'll never forget those numbers and never forget that agent. But she was so relatable, and she just kept going. And she's like, They literally pulled out, because from West Virginia here, we have phone books still. She pulled out her phone book and she just went down her family and down her friends, all the way to like your second, fifth cousin. Like, it was
Wow.
insane. So I would say, again, referrals, and I'm referral based as well. So going into answering your next question, I do pay for Zillow leads, and I also go into that with a mentor program of 6 figures in 6 months on how to use your money to, again, have money in return. So I have leveraged out a couple different lenders that have partnered with me in business, and we do split the costs on the leads. So I only do that in Georgia because I just got licensed in Georgia this year.
Got it.
And I wanted to make sure, again, just like go-getter mentality, I wanted to start off with a fire and I wanted to get my name out there. We don't have a lot of young agents in this area that I'm in Kingsland and St. Mary's, Georgia. It's a military town as well. So I just wanted to like really dip my feet into it and, start running full force. As far as Florida goes, social media and then networking, just word of mouth. So
Okay.
I really reach out to Steph on a daily basis. I'm like, you'll never believe I just talked to this person and now I am selling them a house.
That's great.
There's a really cool whiskey bar here in Jacksonville and Ponte Vedra. And I was sitting there and they like kept interrupting me talking to my favorite bartender. Because again, networking, I make relationships every single place that I go. And that is a huge benefit to me because people know who I am. Or who I am when I walk into a restaurant that I, eat at frequently. And then I end up meeting people just by sitting there and talking. So short story, keeps interrupting, talking about like whiskey and asking questions. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to teach my friend about this. And I'm talking, like I'm having a conversation. Finally, like 15 minutes into it, they keep talking. And I'm like, all right, fine, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. What do you guys want to talk about? And we start chatting, and I'm doing this respectfully and like jokingly. And, we start talking, and then they said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in real estate. Little did I know that I'm talking to somebody that owns millions upon millions of investment properties and is wanting to do a 1031 exchange to buy not one, but 5 Airbnb properties in the Jacksonville and St. Augustine area, starting at anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million a piece. So if I wouldn't have given this person the time of day or just networked and talked and explained what I do, he never would have known that I was a realtor. He also, never would have known that I could help him. And I would have never known if I wouldn't have given him the chance. So long story short, talk to everybody and anybody and always talk about what you do, but in a nonchalant, respectful way.
Totally. Yeah. One of the best quotes that I've heard in real estate is don't be a secret agent. Like the whole thing when you're a kid, I want to be a secret agent for the FBI, CIA. Well, let's bring it into the 21st century now that we're older and stuff like that. Don't be a secret agent. Tell everybody what you do. And it's amazing. The thing that I love about real estate, it dominates conversations. You can literally just say, oh, I'm in real estate. And some people's like, oh yeah, I've thought about getting my real estate license or, whatever. Like, oh, I've got a grandparent who's trying to sell a house right now. It's super crappy, whatever that looks like. Real estate dominates conversations. So yeah, like you said, bring it up respectfully. Oh, I'm a real estate agent. Leave it at that. Most of the time, the conversation goes to real estate. That's what I found, at least.
You guys, go ahead, Ashleigh.
Well, I was just going to say, if you end up staying in front of them, you really don't have to have that conversation awkwardly. If you're putting it on your social media, if you have it and you're just posting it everywhere and you're just talking, how are you doing? What are the things that you typically ask about? How's work going? How's the family doing? Well, work's great. I'm so freaking busy that I've had to hire 2 new people in the past week, and then they're going to say, well, you're so busy. Like, what's going on? Well, let me tell you what's going on in Florida, and you can really start a lot of good conversations from it and staying in front of people. Again, they may not be the referral as you were talking about, Ben, playing the long game. I actually had this exact same conversation with a client that I just sold an investment portfolio for. And we sold 4 properties. And, I told her, I said, I really didn't make much of a commission from you because you were referred to me and I had to pay out another agent. And she said, wait, what? Because she's wanting to get into real estate. So she wanted to understand the back end of it. And she was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I said, no. It is completely fine. I'm only explaining that because it was a question that you asked. And if you want to become a referral agent, there is good money in it. There's different ways that you can go about real estate. And she went on and I said, I'm in the business for the long term. So guess what? Since we've known each other and I've sold 4 investment properties for you, you've already referred me to 3 other people. Hopefully that buy in the next year. But even if it's 2-3 years from now, those are 3 names that I wouldn't have had without working with you.
Totally. And I think part of playing the long game is not just doing transactions for them, but going above and beyond. So I had an agent on my team who was working with this client, and she called me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Ben, I've literally let this person into the house like 3 different times. They're getting contractors bids, and it's just, I don't know how much more time it's worth." And I was like, "Well, who is this client?" They're like, "Oh, it's a lender that I've been working with." And I was like, "Okay, it's a lender you're working with. If you give this person a great experience, who's going to be referring you? Her."
Yeah.
That lender is going to give you leads left and right. Okay, if she wants to spend 8 hours at a house with you, spend 8 hours at a house with her, because she's going to be a gold mine for you in the future. And it's just keeping that in mind whenever you're doing anything in real estate, quite honestly. So yeah, I love that. Love that aspect that you're talking about there, Ashleigh.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so important to have really good resources for each other, and partner up. Like, take lenders out to lunch, take other real estate agents out to lunch, build those relationships, because you don't, in my prior business, we would always joke, every dud knows a stud. And it is one of those things where, you just keep adding value. And it's the sowing and reaping principle. Call it what you want, but it's true. And when you and I connected, Ashleigh, what's so cool of like what we've collaborated on, I introduced you to my brother and just how we've partnered up. It's just so cool to see the vision that you have. And I just said, girl, like, I know that we can move mountains and change people's lives together. And so even the side note to, you launching your course, the 6 Figures in 6 Months, you're launching it at our event on October 2nd, which I'm so fired up about, you guys. If you are an agent, or you're thinking of becoming an agent, or maybe you even own a brokerage and you're like, you know what, I just want to expose myself to the bigger picture of what's available to me. This is going to be such a phenomenal even networking event where Noelle Nielsen, she's going to be flying in. She's going to be talking about how to kill it in video and take your real estate business to that next level. Ashleigh is going to be launching her course, the 6 Figures in 6 Months. Ben and I are going to be talking about how to invest like a boss, because how many agents, we should actually get the stat on this, you guys. How many of them, number one, don't actually save much money at all. They spend it as quickly as they earn it, and sometimes even before they earn it. And then on top of that, they don't invest in their craft. They don't invest in real estate at large. And so, we're so passionate about helping people to create multiple streams of residual income. And we want to expose people to the bigger picture so they can really build that legacy for themselves and their family. Because, I think we can all admit that the real estate game, if you are just chasing commissions, is a rat race that you will never get out of.
Totally.
And we actually talked about that yesterday, Steph, with one of the agents that I'm onboarding. Was, she said, I don't want to be in my 60s still chasing after commission. And Steph and I were like, absolutely. That's where you're making your money work for you, and you have that financial freedom, whether that's investment properties or investing in something else. You have to have your money working for you. And I know, like any millionaire or billionaire out there, they're always saying to have a minimum of, is it 5 or 8 streams of income?
7 streams of income.
7.
The average.
So I'm, again, being the go-getter that I'm like, shoot, let's go for 8. So, but again, having all 7 streams of income, those are all different businesses usually, and different types of entities that they're investing in and making their money work for them. And it's crazy because, my mom is fantastic. She's been the top producing agent in her area for, I can't even count how many years now. I know since I've been young. So it's been over 10 to 15 years. And, she's in her 60s now, and she's pushing out 65 transactions a year on her own, without an assistant, without any other help. I don't know how she does it. Again, maybe that's where I get my work ethic from. But I look at her and I'm like, I love you and I admire you, but I don't want to be that. I don't really want to be selling that top number of 65 transactions unless I have a team doing it, because I want to live life and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And that's how we're going to do it, is investing and making sure that we take these different steps that we're going to be going over during this course, and also going over during our mastermind, that this is how you're going to get that financial freedom.
Yeah. Ben and I, we've been investing in real estate. I've been investing for over 10 years. Ben's probably pretty close to that. And, even we go through this in our monthly webinar and Zoom. If you guys are interested in the October 2nd event or in the Invest Like a Boss event, message Ben or message me. Or if you're interested in the 6 figures in 6 months, message Ashleigh. But we really break down how to actually build out your empire and reverse engineer it. And we'll actually do a consult with you after the fact. Like, even I had a gal reach out to me after our last Zoom, and she said, Steph, like, we don't have a retirement. Her husband is a vet, super outgoing.
Wow.
Heart of gold. And she's like, we've got to do something. And she's like, I feel like it's too late. And like my dad has always said, the best time to have planted a tree was 25 years ago. The next best time is today. So we really want to help agents build out, what does that financial freedom game plan and exit strategy look like for you? I love production, but I don't want to be hustling when I'm 70. Let's just say that.
Totally.
Same here.
Totally.
Anything else you want to add to that, Ben?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, just the power of residual income, I think, is absolutely amazing. And I think every agent, and this is, you can put this outside of just real estate. If you're not a real estate agent, if you're just working a 9 to 5, I still think you should have some kind of residual income.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
one of the best ways that you can get ahead in life. Mm-hmm. And so when you're hearing us talk about agents and all that kind of stuff, try and pull that away from it. Like, hey, how can I put this into my life? Because this applies to everybody, not just real estate agents as well.
100%.
Yeah, that's when you reach out to one of us or an agent that you know, and you really, there's so many people that are so uneducated about real estate. And I mean that respectfully, in the sense of, they're either scared because they don't think that they can buy, and then they're worried about the response. Like, they're going to be embarrassed because, oh, you can't buy a house. I had somebody tell me the other day, they're like, I was told that I couldn't buy. And I said, that's not true. I had a referral reach out to me and said, hey, I want you to help my son because I know that you think outside the box and you'll make this happen. Somebody else had already told him, actually, I think more than one person told him, no. I said, we can do a USDA loan. You literally are going to have to put no money down. I will work in closing costs with the contract for the seller to pay. And guess what? They have a brand new house over $200,000 for their family as first-time home buyers. And they are putting down $1,200 in total for this home.
That's awesome.
So
that's super cool.
It's just thinking outside the box.
Moral of the story, partner up with agents that know how to think outside the box and get it done for you.
Yes.
And partner up to help you to live out what you want to do. So, well, you guys, thank you so much, Ashleigh, for joining us today. All the listeners out there, one of the biggest things that I'm always advocating is, now is your time. It's your time to fire your fear, build your faith, and to become the boss of your own life. So reach out to us. We want to connect with you guys, share, your biggest takeaway, and, what other topics you want us to share on these upcoming podcasts. We want to help you guys reach your goals. So thank you, Ashleigh, and thank you to my co-host, Ben Peters.
Thanks, Ashleigh. Thanks for hopping on.
Bye, guys.